like everybody knows that I'm a natural athlete, and everybody knows that I'm very strong in my beliefs and my values around that. Like, it's people are like, oh, imagine if you were on gear, and I'm like, yeah, imagine. Like, it'd be fun. Like, I think I'd be real strong, but it just doesn't align with my beliefs and my lifestyle, etc.
Welcome back to Natural Strongman, and we are joined by none other than Natural Strongman's World's Strongest Woman, Chloe Brennan. Thanks very much for joining us, Chloe.
Thanks for having me.
So I will start off by saying, sort of 10 minutes late for the interview. What happened? What went wrong?
Oh, so training took a little longer than I expected. So I'm prepping for OSG at the moment, and the barbell is on wagon wheels. So I was like, I'll put it on plates so it's elevated. And I'd done the jerk and I dropped the bar and it bounced off the plates into my shins. So that EMOM that should have been 12 minutes took a little bit longer, but I got it finished. My legs are still attached, just a bit bruised.
Yeah, the last thing you've had a busy schedule over the last month, especially, but
Yeah.
it's not slowing down. You've got, like you said, you've got OSG Worlds coming up at the start of December. How are you feeling? How's the body actually holding up?
I was definitely more tired than I thought I was after those 3 busy weekends. But I've been forced to rest for almost 2 weeks now with this cold or whatever it is, which I think has been good for me. So feeling okay.
We've seen from your training and the competitions and that, I think that's the only way you actually take a break, is if you have to. You literally medically have to.
Yeah, I'm not very good at resting. I'm very good at telling other people to. But I'm a bit of an all or nothing person. So once my mind is set on something, it's going to take a lot to stop me.
And I was looking back, you're a registered nurse. That's where your education side of it is.
Yeah.
How much has that helped you, when it doesn't sound like it's going to be directly linked to Strongwoman, but I can imagine it's quite a help at the same time?
I think so. The area that I worked in nursing so I was a registered learning disability nurse. And then I worked in the mental health space. So I specialised in challenging behaviour with people with learning disabilities, and also worked in like diagnosing autism and ADHD and things like that. So I don't think my nursing has had a direct crossover to me as an athlete, but it's definitely had a huge crossover to me as a coach. And I think it's what makes me different from a lot of other coaches.
And we've seen recently you've started a new coaching program. And like, we're not on here to advertise or anything like that, but there's been quite a lot of excitement about it. So what exactly is it? Because it looks very different from the normal coaching sort of standard that you would see.
Yeah, so my regular coaching is one-to-one coaching. It's very bespoke, it's very personalized. But obviously that kind of coaching comes with a cost. And I just wanted something that was more accessible to people. And I won't go over a certain number of clients because I want to deliver an exceptional service. So I was like, how can I help more people without like kind of compromising my standard of coaching with my one-to-one clients? So it's like, right, a group training program, but I don't want it to just be a program. I want it to be more than that. I want people to get something from it. I want to create community. So the PowerUp project was born. And it's basically an app. So anyone that signs up downloads a PowerUp project app. They get a 16-week program, whether that be the Strongman one or one in a commercial gym. But they also have lessons twice a week, like video lessons that are in the app. And they go through, like, obviously you've got like your lifting technique stuff. So they've got best throwing technique, how to go speedy on a yoke, all of those things. But there's also like, how can we level up your confidence? A little bit on journaling. There's bits on sleep, supplementation, well-being. And then we've got our community Facebook group as well, members only Facebook group, which is just like, it's more than I ever hoped it would be. The community that's been built in there of people just cheering each other on, encouraging each other. It's been quite humbling, but I'm really excited for where it can go.
And I think we've all seen that recently, especially getting behind the strong woman side of the sport, where I don't think there's anybody within the strongman sport that hasn't been really getting behind the women, and obviously spectators. And recently at Britain's Strongest Woman, you will have felt the support there as well. How is it for you, from your side of things, seeing this sort of upsurge in the women's side of the sport?
It's incredible, and I think it's been a long time coming. I've been competing in Strongwoman. I think I did my first like novice competition in 2016, so I've been around a little while. And the change has been incredible, but the people haven't changed. Like, obviously people come and go, but like, I think Strongwoman, the camaraderie is amazing. We all absolutely work our asses off, and now it's like we're being rewarded for how hard we try. And there's been kind of some male or a male strongman has in the past said, oh, it's nice to see the women at grassroots and have them feeling good about themselves, where actually, like, us women that are competing at that higher level, and women competing even in the grassroots level, like, we train our asses off and work just as hard as the men. So it's amazing for us to be rewarded and recognized for that, and kind of start to reap the rewards of all our hard work. And so many people have said it, like, we're entertaining to watch. And I think it's not just the start, because it's been rippling over the last couple of years, but I think we're really coming through now, and I'm so excited to see where that goes. It's a really exciting time to be part of the sport as an athlete and a coach.
I think there's been so much emphasis on the male, especially the top level male side of the sport for so long, that, like you say, a lot of the women, even though they were doing incredible things, they were a little bit overlooked, or just it was sort of, it just wasn't freely available for people to see. But now that people are actually getting to see it, it's incredible, the achievements, like Lucy, obviously, with the deadlift, Rhiannon, with yourself on the exact same level doing the Dinny stones. And I know that that's a huge thing for yourself, and I think it was huge for everyone in the sport.
Gentlemen, this woman is a competitor. Better hear it. Chloe Brennan! I think she's going to give it one more try. This is insane. Chloe Brennan, Strongmans Worlds record! Look at that! She did it! What a moment, Magnus! What a moment!
Do you still get, I don't know, emotional watching that, if you're watching it back?
Yeah, it's a really weird thing, that Dinny Stone. So when it happened, obviously I got a lot of attention from that, like my social media blew up. And it was a little bit uncomfortable for a while. Like, I felt embarrassed by it, and I tried to like dumb it down and be like, oh, well, it's okay, like, it wasn't that good. But actually, like, as time passes, I'm so proud of that moment. And I think the more the time passes, when I watch that video, it just gives me goosebumps more and more and more, because like, it was so pivotal for me as an individual, my confidence and my drive in the sport. But I think, like, the amount of messages that I still get now of like, oh, I watched your Dinny lift and it made me want to do this, or it made me realize I can do this. Like, I don't think I realized the impact that it's had. So when I watch it, it's kind of a little reminder of like, wow, that was quite some, like, it was bigger than just a lift.
It definitely was. Like, I watched it recently again, and it's one of those weird things. And I'm going a little bit off topic here, but the lift is incredible. The lift is amazing, but it's the whole thing. It's the huge release, obviously, of just excitement and happiness from yourself, and obviously seeing the supporting people around you, Matt obviously there, and the reaction of that. I think it was the whole package. It wasn't just a lift, it was everything all packed into one. That was quite emotional for people, I think.
It was huge. And I always say to people, like, if I could bottle up the feeling that I had that day and sell it, like, I wouldn't have to work a day in my life. It was incredible.
And you're obviously you've moved up now to the under 73 category, and we're at the natural Strongman World Finals and won the 73 category. Are you tempted to either continue to go up in the weight categories, drop back down, or are you happy with the under 73s?
I found my home in the 73s. I think this class suits me perfectly. I've won every 73 kilo comp that I've done, other than Worlds last year where I had a poor showing. So I think that kind of says I belong here, I'm doing well here, and I still feel like I've got a lot of strength to gain at this weight. A lot of people ask me, oh, are you moving up a class? And someone said about in the naturals, like, oh, why don't you move up for more of a challenge? But I think that then undermines the weight classes. Like, why? Because like you don't too strong for a weight class. Like if I'm that size, I'm that size, and it's kind of actually let's make this weight class one that stands out, and let's all get this bloody strong, and let's be stronger than the 82s rather than like feeling like we have to go up a weight class. Even if like I'm not going to be 82 kilos, I wouldn't feel comfortable at that weight. And I think that's another thing. Like I put the weight on for the sport, but also it wasn't really healthy for me to be at 64 kilos, whereas I'm healthy at this weight. And especially doing things naturally, for me to put another 10 kilos on, like I would just feel bloated, uncomfortable, slow, heavy. So I think I'm good in the 73s, and I'm definitely not dieting down to 64 again.
You've had enough of them water cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, well, I never did a massive water cut. I did some water loads, and I did, like, I had to bath for Worlds the 1 year. But one of my reasons for moving up a weight class was like health is a really big priority to me. Like obviously winning stuff is cool, but being healthy, living long, enjoying my life is also cool. So I didn't want to get to the point where I'd have to do massive cuts. I could do a cut, I could do a huge cut, but it's gonna, like, there's so many risks that come with that, which is a massive reason for me moving up. And I'm really glad I made that jump. And I'm one, like, when I turn up at Worlds, I'll probably be one of the lightest in my class because a lot of people cut down from heavier, but that's a choice I'm happy with.
There's the misconception as well in the sport where it's sort of that the bigger weight categories are the ones that matter, and people sort of, they don't really appreciate that somebody of a lighter weight is doing these incredible things. And I think that's something that, along with the women's side of the sport, the natural side of the sport is now coming up. I think along with that, we need to look at the lower weight categories and give them just as much respect as the heavier categories.
Yeah.
But looking back at, obviously you did Britain's Strongest Woman, what, 2 weeks ago now, or 10 days? I don't know what day it is.
Yeah, 30th of September.
Yeah. So there was some incredible performances in there. The yoke went really well for you. How do you feel after the actual competition? How were you happy with your performance, or what way were you looking at it?
On the whole, I was disappointed with my performance. When the weights came out, I was like, I'm gonna get a rep on that log, and I just wasn't there. I knew I wasn't going into the day. The deadlift, I was confident I was going to get 2 or 3, and I zeroed the deadlift, which was not fun. I also underperformed on the sandbag steeplechase, and then I was really happy with my last 2 events. But despite being disappointed with my performance and coming like bottom of the pack, it's like I'm so proud of being a part of it, and it's one of my favorite competitions I've ever done, even though I know I could have done better. Like being a part of that was so special and so cool. And to do it alongside, because all the girls that competed are all my friends as well. So to do that with such an amazing group of friends, with such an amazing crowd, it left me feeling very positive, very excited, and just very content and excited to carry on and see where I can go. Because it made me kind of be like, I want to keep getting invited to open comps, so I need to get stronger. So it really kind of lit a fire under me to, okay, if I want to compete with the big girls, then I've got some work to do. So I guess that's better than being complacent.
And I think it's important to note that a week before Britain's Strongest Woman, you became World's Strongest Woman in the naturals. So you had a week between those two, possibly the biggest competitions of your career so far. So obviously recovery was going to be tough for Britain's Strongest Woman.
Yeah. I mean, I got a world record the week before that as well in the US.
True, actually, yeah.
So I think going into Brits, I thought my body felt good, but obviously it wasn't as tip top. But I don't want to use that as an excuse. Like, I just wasn't good enough. I should have been more prepared, and I'm like, there's no point in making excuses as to why I didn't perform, even if there are reasons. I just need to sort that out for next time.
You've obviously got a huge amount that's already gone on this year, and you've still got a couple to come. What's the plan for next year? Is there anything big that you're really targeting, or is it the same competitions but just to do better?
I'm not really sure. Like, I'm just going with the flow. I just love the game. Like, I love doing it. So I'm gonna have some time off at the start of next year, like at the start of this year. So like January to June, I didn't compete at all. I just did Olympic weightlifting, which I loved. So I'm going to have a nice little off season. I think that's really important for me. It makes me hungry to compete again, because you do get like competition fatigue. It gets to a point where you're like, I can't compete anymore. Like, I've got nothing left to give, because it takes a lot out of you in a comp prep, not just physically but mentally. Like I said, I'm an all-in person, so it's mentally draining. So I think I'll take the start of the year off again, look at the calendar, how things fall. And yeah, my goal now is, obviously I'd love to retain my natural worlds title. I'd love to retain my Europe's title, OSG Europe's. And I never said it before, like, I always thought it was for someone else and I'd never make it, but I'd love to win OSG Worlds as well. Podium is like the short-term goal, but I'm putting it out there now. Like, I would love to win that competition. So I think that's the big goal now as well. Like, to be tested and untested world champion, that puts out quite a statement.
I was just going to say that within like 6 weeks of each other, or close 2 months of each other, getting the two titles would be absolutely incredible. With the natural side of things, obviously you're quite a supporter of the the tested side of the sport as well. How do you see the growth in that? Do you think it will continue the way it's been going, or what way do you see it?
I think it's going to blow up. Honestly, I think it's huge, and like the reaction to this year has been massive. Like, I think there's more entries for the tested Englands than what there normally is for the untested, which is huge. I think people are put off when things are untested, because they think, if I'm not taking XYZ, I'm never, like, I don't stand a chance. Whereas now it's like, oh, actually, like, this is a level playing field. This is cool. I know where I'm at. I know what people are doing. And it gives an opportunity for people, because I think quite naively before, I thought you can win in the untested without taking anything. But for everybody, that's not the case. I wish it was, but it's realistically, it hurts me to say it, because for so long I've been like, look, you can do both. But not everybody can do that. So I think it's a route that gives people an opportunity to be a British, European, world champion on a level playing field. And I think the legitimacy of that title has increased tenfold this year. I think every single person that won that world competition was proud to say it and felt like they deserved it and that they fought for it. And I think it's just gonna keep growing. I think it will attract big sponsors because it's run well. So yeah, I think this year shows the start of something very promising. And like, most of my clients are doing the tested pathway this year. I've never had such a response in my group chat to a competition. They were like, I want in on this. And that's just in my little bubble. So I think it's gonna like get huge.
like we've already seen in the numbers are starting to filter out for the English qualifier. The amount of female entries has actually risen over 100%. So it's over double what it was last year. And it's only been open, I think, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. So it's been an incredible response so far. Did you ever feel like, was there ever a time where you were really pressured into going down that route?
More when I started, to be honest. I think now, like, everybody knows that I'm a natural athlete, and everybody knows that I'm very strong in my beliefs and my values around that. Like, it's not going to change. You can talk to me all I want and all you want about it, and I'm not going to change my mind. Of course, like, people are like, oh, imagine if you were on gear, and I'm like, yeah, imagine. Like, it'd be fun. Like, I think I'd be real strong, but it just doesn't align with my beliefs and my lifestyle, etc. But when I started, and I think a lot of my clients have had this with other people saying things to them as well, like, it's sad because it's almost normalized. It's like, if you do strongman, you take drugs, and that's it. It's just how it is. And it's become very normalized. People are just so desensitized to it. Like, they talk about taking Tren like they talk about taking creatine, and it's not the same. A lot of women have taken things not knowing what it is, and I mean, there's definitely a responsibility on the athlete to look at what people have advised them and take some responsibility. But it drives me mad, and it definitely happened a lot at the start of my journey, not so much now. But I think that's why this pathway is so important, and it's why it's so important that it grows, so that people don't feel pressured. And like, if they want to take that route, fine, but if they don't, they know that there's a big pathway that they can be part of, where they're not going to be pressured into that. Because let's face it, like, there's some big side effects that come with those choices. It's not a decision that should be taken lightly. So yeah, I'm really passionate about this, and I never want to offend people or upset people when I have this conversation. But I really do think it's important that people don't feel pressured and that they have options. And I think that's exactly what this pathway offers. So any way that I can help it to grow and become more popular, then I'm there.
This is one of the things at Natural Strongman that we're always quite keen to stress, is that we're not, the idea isn't to take over or sort of go, well, those people are doing it wrong or anything like that. It is, like you say, to just give another pathway, give more options for athletes, so they don't have to get pushed into one route. How did you actually get started in Strongwoman? What brought you to the sport?
A big accident. So I used to do trampolining. I was a gymnast years ago when I first met my partner, Matt. And then I just kept getting injured when I was doing that. Like, I had a lot of back problems, a lot of shin problems, and just kind of stopped. And then Matt was like, oh, you should come to the gym. And I was like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want it. Like, I always felt like I was quite broad as a kid anyway, so I didn't want to. And I always felt big around people, and I didn't want to feel big. I didn't want to feel bulky. I didn't want to look masculine, all the typical things that us girls say before we get into sport. And then I got into some like body pump stuff. Matt did some all-round weightlifting bits and bobs with an organisation called Iowa, which I'm going to be competing in again this year, actually. So that's fun. But yeah, so we got into that, and then Matt did a couple of strongman competitions. I went along, got involved with different people, got pushed into my first Midlands qualifier, came second at England's my first year, third at Brits. Thought, oh, okay, I'm all right at this, and the rest was history.
And you mentioned Matt there. You coming from a mental health nursing background, how beneficial is it to have Matt and the other supportive people around you? I'm sure you have a team of people that are actually there to push you on. How important is that?
It's massive. I think you couldn't compete at the top level in this sport without that kind of support. So it takes over your life. It takes over everything. It takes up a lot of time, and without someone who understands that, it just doesn't work. But Matt's obviously been with me at a lot of competitions now. He knows when he needs to be near me, he knows when he needs to give me some distance, he knows what to say most of the time. So yeah, it just makes the whole process of prepping and competing a lot easier, and I don't think I'd be where I am now without all the people around me, like my coaches as well. So Jenny Todd and Vicky, who's a tiny titan on Instagram, like they've both been incredible in terms of mindset. I've had this year has been really weird, like after like I've had a really successful year from the outside, but every time I've won something I've come crashing down after quite badly, and they've really helped me through that. And like I'm quite good friends with Donna Moore, and she's been really good at talking through that with me as well, because it's something that you're not prepared for. So yeah, having people around me is really valuable, and I've just started working with another strong woman, Alexa, on my mindset going into Worlds, and that's proven to be incredibly valuable as well. So I think like the mental side of it and the support side of it is a necessity. Like if you don't have that, you're going to really struggle.
And with the crashes after the sort of victories or the performances, what do you think causes that? Is it pure just exhaustion after the adrenaline and stuff like that building up to it, or is it something else?
I think so like when you come second or third or fourth or fifth, you've got something to work towards because you didn't win. So it's like, okay, I'm hungry for that now. Whereas when you win, and I mean, I'm not unhappy with my life, I'm very happy with my life, but I think you expect something to change. So when the Europe's events were out, I was like, I am going to win Europe's Strongest Woman. And in my head, that was like that was an unreachable goal that I was going to reach, and I was going to feel something after I'd won that. And obviously I was buzzing. I was over the moon that I achieved that. But then it was like, okay, being on the podium, got my trophy. Then I got back in my car and drove home on the motorway that night, went to bed, got up, worked, and everything's the same. And it's really hard to explain, because I don't know if it sounds like a bit bratty or a bit ungrateful, but it's like a bit of an emptiness, and you're like, okay, like what? And even like before I got home, I was already worried about retaining the title next year rather than just enjoying having it. So yeah, that's something I need to work on, but I think having spoken to other people, it's not uncommon.
No, and actually Aisha Ola mentioned something in an interview recently where she won World's Strongest Woman in the Masters, but she didn't actually take time to enjoy it because there was a next goal that she wanted to go and get. So yeah, I think that's something a lot of people, it's not just yourself, I think a lot of people struggle with that, and actually stopping to smell the roses sort of side of things. So you've got OSG Worlds coming up, and obviously the target, like you say, is sort of minimum to get podium is where you'd hope to be. The individual events, how are you feeling for them, or how's the training been going?
The training started yesterday. But I think they're quite good events for me. The big thing at Worlds in the past for me has been the overhead. I always zero the overhead, but this year, like, there's zero chance of me zeroing the overhead. Like, the weights are okay for me. So as long as I can pick up points there, like, I'm a good mover, so I'm hoping like the frame and the carry will be good for me. Deadlifts I'm working really hard on, and like it's my mindset that's messed me up in competitions with that, so I'm working on that, so hoping to get good points there. Then there's the carry and drag, which I'm gonna work my arse off for, because I had a terrible time on that last time. And then throwing and stone, so they're all events that I quite enjoy. Obviously I'd love it if there was a yoke in there, but there isn't. But no, they're good events for me. I wasn't like really excited about them when I first saw them, but when I actually sit down, I'm like, oh no, like these are decent events. Let's work hard and see what happens. So I'm looking forward to it.
Like we say, I think we're all looking forward to that. It's 6 weeks, something like that until, is it? Yeah, it's not that.
It's like maybe 7 weeks, let's say. It's the start of December. Could be wrong, could be sooner. I need to sort out my flights and everything.
I need to look and see what the calendar says. I think you might be right. I think it might be 7 weeks. I'm scaring you now. But thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much for chatting to us. If anybody hasn't seen Chloe at Natural Strongman's World's Strongest Woman recently, winning that, click on over, have a look at the competition. It's still up there for you to view. And definitely head on over to Chloe's YouTube. You'll see that in the description below, and you can subscribe there for loads of great content. I know you put up quite a lot of stuff on there, so that's great.
I know, I'm going to do shot put with a world champion shot putter tomorrow. I'm very excited.
Oh, wow. And I think I didn't actually get to watch it yet. This is terrible. But I seen one where you were training with the Strongmans. I saw you did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu recently as well. And you're doing everything.
It's fun.
You're busy. Try not to injure yourself. We want to see you at OSGs, okay?
I promise, I'll be fine.
So thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.